Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the 6-5 podcast. Daniel Newman here, your host driving the show today, along with my always esteemed co-host, Mr. Patrick Moorhead, broadcasting live and on demand if you're catching this later from beautiful downtown Austin. It's supposed to rain today, but it's not because the city's not just Austin, but it's awesome. Pat, right across town, not too far away. But we've got a great show. And by the way, second time in the same week you get to see us, because last week somebody canceled on me and blew our perfect streak of doing the same time on Friday. And well, we did it again today, but we at least got it in. So great show today. But before I jump in and give you all the background, Mr. Moorhead, say hello to everybody and tell them how you're feeling.
Hi, everybody. I've been a little under the weather. This is OG stuff, you know. If you're young, and you probably are, you just don't have to worry about this stuff. Just a minor infection, that's all. But we're all good. We're all good. And I'm looking forward to hearing nonstop music this weekend. ACL should be starting in a few hours, actually, here. And it's here for 2 weeks with 250,000 of my closest friends.
Going to be great. I'm glad to see it's happening. There was some ups and downs. Will it happen? But it's a good sign. It's a good bellwether and litmus test for larger scale events. So keeping an eye on that one. I got to figure out how the heck I'm going to get out of downtown later. That could be a problem for me. But
getting out is going to be a lot easier than getting in. So
I won't be coming back then. But no, we got a great show lined up for you today. We've got Oracle, HPE, Amazon twice. We're going to talk a little bit about Facebook, which we don't do too often, but we just felt compelled. And then some breaking news on the Five9-Zoom deal coming off the wheels. And we'll get more into that. For those of you that have not listened to the 6-5 in the past, 6 topics, hand curated, 5 minutes each. Patrick and I are both analysts, so we try to make it analysis heavy, news light, because everybody can read the news. We want you to get between the lines and know what isn't obvious and always available to you through what's out there in the media. Quick, I guess you could say we are talking on this show about publicly traded companies, but just know as a disclaimer, this show is for information and entertainment purposes only. Please do not take anything that I or Mr. Moorhead here says as investment advice. Patrick would say do the opposite. I would say just don't do anything at all. Okay, let's dive in, Pat. We got a busy week. Some really kind of product-focused things on the front end of this show, and as we get further to the back, some big thematic things, and we'll end with a big M&A story. But Oracle X9M launch. You, as always, wrote a great piece, as did Ron Westfall from our team. But since you wrote this great piece, why don't you tell the people what they need to know?
Well, first off, I need to be honest here. I didn't write this piece. Steve wrote this piece, but I published it for him and edited it. So, but no, I am very familiar with this. And if you're not familiar with Exadata, essentially, it's a database appliance. It has processing, it has memory, it has storage, but it is designed to run Oracle's software the best, and specifically Oracle Autonomous Database, or the Oracle database, as fast as you possibly can. And this is a follow-up, as you would expect, to the X9M, which already had pretty incredible performance. And this is an update providing substantially more performance. And it is really all about raw performance, upgrading. They're using PCIe 4, Rocky, 33% higher memory capacity, and at least according to Oracle, 1 terabyte per second of throughput. And what does that mean for SQL read IOPS per rack? I know you wanted to know this, Daniel. 27.6 million. I had to look down at my notes there. But so what does that mean? Well, Autonomous Database and Oracle Database run pretty much faster than anything out there. You compare it to Snowflake, you compare it to Azure, and it pretty much runs right over it. And by the way, I'm okay to say that. I usually like to not do competitive comparisons, but it's what you would expect. I mean, it's architected for this type of software, and a lot of it's in memory. And that's a big freaking deal, right? Being in memory versus being in storage. So with 87%, I think, of the Fortune 100 already adopting Exadata. That's primarily for mission critical type of workloads. This is likely going to be an easy drop in. The first way you can get this is through Cloud at Customer, which is their hybrid cloud on-prem. But I'm expecting very shortly that this will be available in their public cloud, just like we saw the staggered launch with the X9M. So congratulations, Oracle.
Yeah, absolutely. Big launch. Their nomenclature, or the product naming, reminds me of a vehicle. I'm thinking BMW is going to come out with a bigger truck, the X9M. But if anyone knows anything about the BMW and the XM series, these are really fast, powerful trucks. And Oracle definitely, with this launch, continues to focus on kind of this three-headed fast OLTP, fast analytics, and consolidation. Partnered with Intel. Something worth noting. So it's Ice Lake technology, and the company is really becoming pretty effective when it comes to winning against really big competition in the three areas of latency, throughput, and cost. And anyone that knows Pat and I and have followed us, you've kind of seen us go 180 on Oracle. If you'd asked us 2 years ago, I called Oracle a cloud pretender. Pat, you and I really were not fans of Gen 1. We weren't fans of a lot of the things that were being built, and we have been convinced. And that is something that these last two generations have continued to do. And the X8M was very impressive, and the X9 only continued the run of form. And as you mentioned, we aren't typically... we try to typically focus on the company, not the competition. But right now in the marketplace, as Oracle tries to stand out and differentiate where it's winning in cloud and hybrid cloud, this has been an area that the company is doing very well. So I'm going to keep moving, but a very successful launch, worth noting. Pay attention. Oracle is on a very, very good run of form. Next topic, HPE GreenLake. So had the chance about a week and a half ago to meet in Las Vegas. You should have been there, but I think you were on a horse and a farm, looking like President Medvedev of Russia, shirtless on the horse. No, I'm kidding. But you were down in Florida, and I was in Vegas and had the chance to spend some time ahead of this big launch, Pat. And HPE GreenLake, the company, if you haven't really kind of paid attention, is pivoting. They had their everything as a service announcement about 3 years ago. The company is really trying to convince the street. It's trying to convince its customer base that it is going to bring the value of the public cloud to you on-prem. But early on, a lot of it was about compute and storage. That was kind of what we were hearing about, which, by the way, mirrors pretty closely to where our biggest infrastructure as a service player started, right? Everyone that knows AWS's earliest days. Well, as any public-private hybrid cloud offering is going to grow up and become an adult, it's going to have to begin to layer services on. And really what all this is about data. And so HPE came out basically taking straight up blows at Snowflake. I think that might be our theme of our first two topics, and is now offering what they're calling, their unified analytics solution. So GreenLake really rolled out three different things that caught my attention: GreenLake for analytics, GreenLake for data protection, and their HPE edge to cloud adoption framework and automation tools. So the analytics basically is an open unified analytics cloud service developed to modernize data applications across prem, edge, and cloud. So whether it's public to private, private to public, HPE is addressing all of this. I think what probably caught me and interested me the most in this, Pat, is that I don't think anybody thinks, despite the fact that HPE has a really big pedigree in storage and data and analytics, has made some big acquisitions, whether it's been 3PAR or whether it's been, other acquisitions for HCI or for the whole data layer. Blue Data, I believe, was another acquisition not too long ago. They've built a pretty comprehensive mapper set of analytics tools. And that's what's starting to roll out is an on-demand subscription-based analytics service that can compete with Snowflake. Very cool. The data protection, more of what I would consider a core service, something they would need to be offering. And then, of course, their overall framework as it comes to being able to de-risk the experience that companies are going through right now and moving to cloud. And I think sometimes in the tech industry, Pat, we take a little bit for granted the fact that just moving to cloud for a large enterprise with huge legacy data sets is something we can just do that. Let's just go to cloud. Well, you can ask any major ERP, CRM company, apps company, and of course, infrastructure that it isn't a lift and shift that's just done overnight. So building these core services and frameworks that allow companies to move faster to cloud and to what I would consider that right mix of cloud and prem services to be able to deliver applications at scale is the key. Last thought on this one is that, GreenLake as a whole is really focused on letting the market know what they've got going on. It's a 1,200 customer business at this point, and they have about $5.2 billion in contracts. They're continuing to grow their annual recurring revenue, about 33% up year over year. Their order volumes are growing significantly year over year. And, they continue to be able to announce some really good customer wins. So I'll stop there because it's kind of like you did on X9M. I gave a lot of the context here, but I'm sure, you track HPE really closely, maybe add a few nuggets of brilliance here, Pat.
Well, listen, this is the continued march of everything as a service, and as opposed to, buying it and shipping it and paying for it or releasing it. This is a consumption model, and it's GreenLake. And what I do like is that HPE has been maturing GreenLake from, I'll call it standard infrastructure as a service, and then moving up leveling all the way up to certain analytics services. And I think that's smart. The other thing that I've liked about their strategy is they also simplified infrastructure, where instead of having the full library that you could pick from, coming up with a limited pick approach to even the infrastructure. That's smart because, quite frankly, it was way too complex, and their channel partners were, I think, tripping over themselves trying to execute this, where the whole notion, or part of the whole notion of GreenLake, is simplicity. And if it's hard to buy and hard to get pulled through the channel, then it's in a way it's defeating a part of the purpose. And the other thing that we can expect too, and we saw a little bit of this in their last announcement, is more full solutions, where actually the application sits on top of, let's say, the middleware and the OS and all of the control and data plane goodies that they put underneath that. So I love to see the march to more customers. What HPE needs to be doing to make more believers out there, including believers on the street, is to show that they are taking share away from not only their peers, the classic on-prem folks, but also from the cloud folks. I want HPE's customers to say, hey, we evaluated AWS and we went HPE instead on this. That will really, we hear about, these enterprises pulling some applications back. By the way, they're pulling back some, but they're putting more in the public cloud. So there is a net loss of applications there. And I want to see big numbers too, right? If Azure and AWS are operating at around 40 to 50% growth per quarter, I want to start seeing some of that growth with some of these on-prem as a service movements as well.
Absolutely. So a lot more there. Going to be one to follow and watch. I think it's going to end up being a mix and match. Prem and cloud. We're going to see more and more of that as time goes on. Pat, big story of the week. There's a robot at my feet. Amazon had their big devices launch. You and I both covered this closely. Tons of stuff to cover here. I'm going to let you take the first stab here because there's no way you can suck all the oxygen out on this one. But yeah, come on. What do you think there? Are we getting robots? Is that going to be part of our life? What else?
Yeah, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit everything but the robot and leave the robot for you. I know you had some fun things to talk about there, and there was a little bit of controversy about the way that was positioned. But first of all, I just want to say overall, this once again reiterated Amazon's lead in the home. Okay, if you ever had a question about the smart home, you probably shouldn't anymore, because not only does Amazon keep doing the brilliant basics, and it's funny that a voice-enabled speaker is a brilliant basic, but it seems like a lot of, the big companies can crank those out, right? Apple, Google, and Amazon, Microsoft exited that business, so it wasn't easy for them. But then again, their center of the world is not the consumer. So strategically, I understood that. So a couple products that I wanted to point out. First of all, the Echo Show 15, which is essentially a show that you mount on the wall or in a stand. You and I both had the opportunity to take that for a spin for a week or 10 days, and a really interesting device that I could totally see you. I could see it using more when my family was in the home, right? If nothing else, a joint message board. But also, how many times do you go and wonder what the weather is going to be like? Sometimes we look at the phone. Other people prefer to get on their PCs, maybe even ask your smart speaker that. But that's what I found myself doing a bunch when I wanted to look at YouTube stuff together, or even doing cooking with Paula. It seemed to help me a lot. So I consider this a new category product for them, which I thought is still a big deal here. One little adder on that is that Amazon disclosed that they have a new neural network accelerator called the AZ2. Not a whole lot of the bits and the bytes across that, but then again, this is a consumer show. But the nice thing is that we're going to see more inference at the edge. I would say Google probably, they had made the earliest announcement of how they were going to do this with their end device. It's nice to see Amazon on their second generation chip. And what does that do? It makes things like face login a lot easier on the Echo Show 15, and the lessens the need to phone home to do some core type of voice matching or face matching. And I thought overall that was a good thing. The second thing was a product called Amazon Glow, and Amazon Glow is for kids, and it's actually a communications an activity device where you've got a parent on one end or a grandparent and a kid on the other. Literally, I'm thinking I should have had some pictures of this, but essentially it projects an image on the floor for the kid, and then there's a camera in it, and then the parent can work through it through any Amazon device that has a display. So you can read books together, you can color with them, you can do certain activities. The way that I looked at it, it kind of reminded me of, if you remember the HP Sprout, Daniel, that was a similar concept, but that was more for B2B, and it's about 10% of the price of Sprout as well. And the last thing I'm going to talk about, not the last thing I'm going to talk about. They added a display to Halo, which is, you might not even know that Amazon had an exercise wearable on the wrist, but didn't have a display. What they did is they added a display. Now they're going to go really head-to-head with Google's Fitbit. So things are going to get pretty darn interesting. Looks like they're putting most of the cost into the service. You get 1 year of service with it, but it's really inexpensive at $79. The last thing I will cover before I'll give Astro the robot to you is the maturation of its security. First off, there was a vertical solution through Home Depot for Ring that came out, which was for construction job sites. And it came, with different levels of weatherized. It's orange, of course, it's Home Depot. But I like this play because the more vertical you go, the higher the profits. And the more you can reach. And Amazon is starting to get into, I'll call it a very small business or small business capabilities, as opposed to limiting this to a consumer solution. The final thing, I would say in accordance with that strategy, is they brought out a Ring virtual security guard. And essentially, instead of you watching the camera when it comes out and a cat jumps on the camera outside and wakes you up, they're actually contracting with a third party to where they will be watching what comes on the camera. What was that alert? Was it a positive? Was it a false positive? They can actually talk to a potential intruder, right? Or, your mother-in-law surprising you when you were out. They understand, de-escalation and the important things of that. And that kind of rounds it out, the maturation of their security offerings.
Yeah, you hit a lot of things, Pat, on the head. And so it kind of leaves us at Astro. I will say there's a bigger story under the surface that is blooming within the Amazon Devices group that everybody needs to take into consideration. I'll dive into this more in another segment here at a later time. So they brought Astro out on stage. I don't necessarily want to run through the product itself too much because there's a ton of videos out there. You can see what it is. It's a large touch screen. It can do video, so it can roll around with your kid, and your kid can, FaceTime or do video with grandma, and it's rolling around with you. This device is really a paradigm shift. Astro, a $1,000 personal robot that can basically learn an entire floor of your home. That's, by the way, something I'll talk about more in a minute because there's some debate about that. It has a telescoping camera that can look at things and report back. It's got security functionality where it can make noise. It's got a little bit of ambient technology where it's got a personality, although it doesn't speak yet. But it is really a first of its kind. And I think what we have here is a really interesting inflection point in society where the idea of a robot for every family or human, this is very Jetson-esque, and Amazon being the company that's trying to break through here. As a whole, I think the technology will go through some hurdles to becoming mainstream adopted. The price at under $1,000 is going to limit its audience in the early days to slightly more affluent group of people. But in terms of what it can do, gaining experience in the world and people seeing robots in the home, its ability to potentially have some security value in the home are all very interesting. The market came out with a number of challenging articles through the media about it. The two biggest challenges were its market readiness and safety, and its privacy and surveillance. I'm going to talk about the latter first very quickly. Any article that talks about privacy and surveillance with an Echo device is a pot shot at best. And here's the reason I say that. We carry a device around in our pocket that we willingly allow to surveil our every move and activity, our every like, lust, and thought. And we share it willingly with these devices, and they have cameras, they have microphones, and we not only do it with the device, but we do it with numbers of different applications where we agree to privacy terms that we don't even read. So if we're worried about a robot that can roll around and follow you and surveil you in your own home, this robot's not changing anything until you throw your phone away. Okay, so now that we've gotten the privacy and surveillance discussion out of the way, the safety discussion, this one's more nuanced. There was a speculation that this device was going to come out. And then there was other speculation that this device was not going to come out. The reason it wasn't going to come out is because this is really hard. Okay, anybody that's ever used a robot vacuum cleaner knows that while it's supposed to work one way, it doesn't always work exactly the way you expect. The learning, the ability to do the job well, and this is a device that has exponentially more technology packed into it in terms of capabilities. The way these devices are going to create interactions with pets and animals, the way it's able to truly learn the mapping of a home. There were some articles in The Verge that talked about how it throws itself down staircases. The thing is a physical harm risk within homes and families. All that stuff will be sorted out when these devices go out in the wild. But these were all, I want to note this very importantly, these were undisclosed sources that, you would hope there's a lot of integrity in the journalism, but in the spirit of sensationalism, I really do sort of wonder the people who came out that helped build this product that supposedly trashed it to the media. I hope they were talking about the latest software, the latest version, because how the device might have acted even 2 or 3 weeks ago, that could be 5 or 10 software iterations later ahead of a launch. I do want to see all of its intelligence, the chip technology that went in it, how the training and education and inference of this device, the maturation of this device will be something to watch. But as a whole, I think this is very exciting. It's breakthrough. While Elon Musk was in spandex on stage somewhere, or had a black person dressed in black spandex on stage pretending to be a robot, Amazon actually delivered a robot. And so I want to say that this is breakthrough. This is paradigm shift. This is a new thing that the world has to get used to. I'm also going to say that I could talk for another 20 minutes, but we have 3 topics and about 13 minutes to finish out this show. So I am going to move on to the next one. Let's talk about Facebook being grilled on the Hill. This one is one that we can talk about somewhat quickly, but also I'm just gonna throw it out there, Pat. So Wall Street Journal a week or two ago, I don't have the exact date, came out with a report that basically said that Instagram, to a significant percentage of teenage girls, was causing serious ire. It was causing distress. It was causing depression and anxiety. And in some cases in England and the US, it actually created an increased risk of suicide or thoughts of suicide. Now, this was research that was done by Facebook about their Instagram platform that was leaked in the Wall Street Journal, and the story came out and effectively has caused a lot of turmoil, a lot of publicity, a lot of media. And this, Pat, by the way, is an example that I consider regulation on big tech to be a real discussion and conversation that needed to be had. Now, once again, I believe Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg are not going on the stand, and they sent other representatives to be part of this discussion. And that continues to bother me, that the people that are most accountable for this aren't fully stepping up and actually being the ones testifying. But the research itself, Pat, is damning. It's as damning as it comes. And we're in this really interesting inflection in society right now where social media is almost needing to be scrutinized the way cigarettes were scrutinized 20 or 30 years before we finally discovered just how bad they were. And so I'm not saying for a moment that adults with fully developed brains can't make decisions for themselves the way we choose to drink, smoke, or engage in other behaviors that we know have health risks. But the challenge is that these children are being engaged at an earlier and earlier age into these devices, into these social platforms where their view of what the world is, of what health is, of what politics are, of what gainful employment, family looks like, are being shaped by algorithms that are out of their control and is basically dictating without them having the ability to discern what is real, what is not. And the data that was discovered by Facebook shows that there's some problems with this. So Pat, will just say this is a great example of where if big tech regulation is going to progress, this is an area I'd like to see it progress, is finding very specific areas and identifiers where technologies are creating risks, are creating real monopolies, are creating true harm to consumers, not looking at big overarching regulatory activities that are going to look at every platform equally. Facebook has a problem. It has a problem with elections. It's had a problem with its use of data. It's had a problem with what it's telling people about how it operates and why it operates. Does Facebook need to be broken up? Probably not. It would cause more consumer harm than benefit. But does Facebook need to start being held much more accountable for things it can improve and do better? And this is a case, Pat, where I hope this grilling makes some sausage.
Ooh, quotable there. So I'm gonna play the contrarian here, even though I do think that I believe that Facebook is toxic for kids. Okay, I think it's toxic for adults. It also brings a lot of benefits. Imagine COVID, where we couldn't see pictures of grandkids and parents. I haven't seen my dad since COVID came out. He's old, and the only way that I can see him is through video calls and stuff he posts on Facebook. I mean, Daniel, if we ban Facebook for kids, shouldn't we? The biggest killer for kids is obesity. Shouldn't we force kids to be eating right? Maybe not let them eat at McDonald's or keep them from ordering cheeseburgers. How far do we go, right? If we're really saying we're doing this to protect kids, and I know your argument was bigger than that, but let's just go after everything. While we can. I mean, that I think in a sense, the pile on Facebook is, well, I think it's deserved. I also think it's convenient to bring the kid thing up. And the funny part is, both Democrats and Republicans hate Facebook. The Democrats say that Facebook helped elect Trump, and the conservatives hate Facebook because they say they get censored more than the Democrats, right? So it's just like, I don't know, Daniel. I think we're both small government people. I don't want to speak for you. Most of the growth that we've seen in business comes from more deregulation. But how can I support kids being injured? I can't, right? Anyways, those are my kind of 2 cents on that. And we need to have more conversations on the 6-5 like this. This is fun.
Yeah, it is a fun one, and it's nice when there's a little gap in the week and we can pick something big picture. And by the way, there were some great segments on our favorite pod, the All In. They talked about this at length, and it was a great debate. We could put a link to it maybe in the show notes if we remember. We got 2 more things. Hard hitting, Pat. Going to have to keep them to a couple minutes each. I'm going to play moderator with you here, but spinning back to Amazon, you wrote a great piece, some updates to Connect. One of the products that we don't hear a lot about, but something that's really becoming an important part over there at Amazon.
Yeah, so Amazon, they do IaaS, PaaS, and they even have some SaaS products. And Amazon Connect is kind of a cross between a PaaS and a SaaS product. It's a configurable SaaS product that takes a little bit of work. But essentially, Amazon Connect is a CCaaS service for contact centers. And if you look at just how bad contact centers are and consumers' experiences with it, you can see that there's an opportunity for disruption there, right? And part of the challenge is you don't necessarily know who's calling in and why they're calling and how to answer and how to deal with things as that's going on, and even connecting them to different places. Like, why should it take 4 steps to get to where you actually want to go? And in true form, Amazon will either take money with IaaS, PaaS, or SaaS, right? They're already hosting huge contact centers like, as we're going to talk next, Five9. They're also hosting has, which is Zoom. So this is them getting, I don't want to say their pound of flesh, but their amount of business, and they have real customers. You know, they brought out 6T, and if you've ever rented a car in Western Europe, you know that UT in Austin uses Amazon Connect to transition, you know, to working, learning, teaching from home, which is pretty cool. Morrison's, if you've been in the UK, the largest supermarket chain, uses them, and they actually said they got everybody working from their home within a day, and I think that's truly awesome. Some new features: Connect Wisdom which is kind of a real-time agent assistant using AI, and also has some automation features in it to automatically do things that the customer wants. There's Connect Voice ID, where based on voice, you know who the customer is coming in the door, and they don't even have to say who they are. And we just talked about Alexa and how good they are at that stuff. So, incredible stuff going on with Amazon Update. And I forgot to move the Chiron.
Yeah, Amazon's playing a real role in this contact center space, and quietly is building up quite an impressive product portfolio and a business. And because we only have a minute, I'm just going to say I think we're going to hear a lot more from Amazon. And given their ability to deliver customer experience service for their own business, they're probably going to build a heck of a good product, considering just the amount of customer service they have to deliver each and every day. So let's wrap up with a little bit of news. I don't want to say it's good news. I don't want to say it's bad news, but let's just say something we haven't heard a lot lately is a deal goes off the rails when ISS, Institutional Shareholder Services, came out and basically issued a report to Five9 investors that the $14.7 billion deal that put about a 12% premium on the Five9 stock at the time of the deal should not be completed. So a lot of people, including us, Pat, operated under the expectation that regulatory was not going to stop this deal because there wasn't a good reason for that. Even, some of the investigations into China and the relationship were not thought to have stopped this deal. But what I didn't expect was that this deal would get stopped because of, an external advisor coming out and telling Five9 shareholders not to vote. And then the voters actually didn't vote for it. Now, the backdrop on this is, I think there was something like a 25% price drop in the Zoom stock. And this was an all stock deal that took place from the time the deal got announced to the time that the deal was supposed to be moving forward. This is on the back of the fact that Zoom's growth had fallen to a terrible 54% year over year on a pandemic over pandemic quarter. If you hear my sarcasm, that's because I'm laying it out pretty thick. The growth rate for Zoom is fine. Bottom line here, Patton, because we're a little bit at time and you and I both have to wrap this show up here pretty quick, and I think this is a topic that warrants a little more conversation than we're going to be able to give it right now, is that both of these companies will be fine by themselves. Five9 has a very successful product in a growing category. Zoom has a successful product and a platform in a category where they've been very successful. I do believe together they created a larger TAM, and it did make a compelling case for Zoom's platform and horizontal growth into new areas like the contact center. There's still a strategic partnership between the two companies. The market will still get a benefit from that partnership. But going forward, I think both companies are going to be okay. I think both companies are going to continue to grow. And I'm not 100% this is the end of this deal forever, but it does look like right now that there's not going to be another offer table in the immediate future.
Daniel, you said it best. I like the combination. It was strategically sound. Note, in none of the communications from Five9 did they dispel the strategy. We're talking about price right now. That's what this comes down to. I don't think this deal is dead, Daniel. I don't. Now, on one side, I know that Zoom is very build it yourself type of mentality, but I have to tell you, getting call center customers, I think they can build a decent technology, but Zoom hasn't proven to me that on the audio side, it has the machine learning chops and automation to be able to build their own and just show up and be successful on day one. So, but I don't think this deal's dead because it's about price. I think we're looking at a very hard negotiation at this point. So, anyways,
be something to keep an eye on. Well, we did it, Pat. We finished the show. We covered Oracle, HPE, Amazon a couple times. We dug into a controversial topic with Facebook, and we talked about the Five9-Zoom deal. For everyone out there, hit that subscribe button. Join us. Check us out on iTunes, on Spotify, on YouTube, and of course on Twitter with any complaints at Patrick Moorhead. For this episode of the 6-5, I want to say, I almost said the 5-9. Think about that. Of the 6-5, we've got to say goodbye. We appreciate all you for tuning in. We appreciate our fans. See you next week. Bye now.